Air hung heavy with unspoken words. John stared out the window, his coffee growing cold. He finally turned to Mary, his heart pounding in his chest. "Mary," he began, his voice a strained whisper, "I want a divorce." Mary sat across from him, her morning coffee untouched. Her world seemed to crumble around her. John watched her, bracing for tears, anger, anything but the calm that washed over her face. "Okay," she said softly, her voice devoid of emotion. John shifted uncomfortably. He expected a fight, a desperate plea. Instead, Mary's composure unnerved him. "But," she continued, her voice gaining a sliver of steel, "give me a month. 1 month before we tell the kids, before we start anything." John agreed, a flicker of relief battling with a growing sense of unease. He leaned back, the weight of his decision pressing down on him. Little did he know, this month would change everything. The first few days were the hardest. The silence in the house was deafening. They moved like ghosts, avoiding each other's eyes. John buried himself in work, desperate to escape the turmoil at home. One evening, Mary tripped on the doorstep, a sharp cry escaping her lips. John rushed to her side, his heart leaping into his throat. He helped her up, his hands lingering on her arms. He noticed how frail she felt, her skin almost translucent in the dim light. "Let me carry you," John murmured, surprised by the tenderness in his own voice. Mary hesitated, then nodded, leaning against him. He carried her inside, the familiar weight oddly comforting. That night, John found himself drawn back to Mary. He saw her not as the woman he wanted to leave, but as the woman he once loved, the woman he vowed to spend his life with. Carrying Mary became a nightly ritual. Each night he would lift her over the threshold, their eyes meeting for a fleeting moment. At first it was just a gesture, a way to ease the tension. But slowly something shifted. He started noticing the little things about her again. The way her eyes crinkled when she smiled. The soft scent of her lavender perfume. He found himself reaching for her hand as they walked, his fingers intertwining with hers. They started talking again, sharing meals and laughing together. The laughter felt forced at first, but soon it became genuine. The chasm between them began to shrink, replaced by a flicker of the love they once shared. John saw the effort Mary was making. She was fighting for their marriage, for their family. And for the first time he realized he wanted to fight too. One Saturday, John found Mary curled up on the couch, a photo album in her lap. He sat beside her, peering at faded images of their life together. Their wedding day, the birth of their children, vacations filled with laughter and sunshine. "Remember this?" Mary chuckled, pointing to a picture of John, his hair full and dark, chasing their giggling children on a sandy beach. He wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. "We were happy then," he whispered, a lump forming in his throat. "We can be happy again," Mary said softly, her eyes filled with a hope he thought was long gone. Her words struck him with the force of a revelation. Was it possible? Could they recapture the love they once shared? John looked at Mary, his heart filled with a longing he couldn't ignore. He saw her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering love for him, even in the face of his rejection. And in that moment, he knew he had made a terrible mistake. The realization hit John like a tidal wave. He had been so focused on what was missing, he failed to see the treasure he already possessed. The weight of his regret was crushing, threatening to drown him in guilt and shame. He started staying up late, watching Mary sleep. He traced the lines on her face, each one a testament to their life together. He listened to the soft rhythm of her breathing, clinging to the sound like a lifeline. John found himself drawn to her, craving her touch, her laughter, her presence. He realized he couldn't imagine his life without her. He was in love with his wife, and the thought of losing her terrified him. The month was almost over, and John knew he had to make a choice. Would he cling to his pride and walk away, or would he swallow his ego and fight for the woman who held his heart in her hand?